Hello and welcome, my name is Tuppence. I'm going to be making this video for the Christmas Collaboration 2025 that's hosted by Tracy of Mini Scenes GB. I've already mixed up a little bit of resin, and as you can see it is super bubbly and thick. It's very cold in my craft room, so I'm going to be using my G3 to help me cure my stuff. And I'm going to be using these beautiful reindeer moulds. I think they're reindeer anyway. They've got curly antlers and I think it's going to look spectacular because I'm going to do this in silver and white. I want this to be a really snowy look to it. And I'm going to be making a mixed media piece with wood and resin. So for my main part of my resin, I'm going to add this Aurora powder. It's a pearlescent white powder. And I've taken a little bit out of the clear resin already because I want to put some glass chips into that. But for the main part, I'm just going to add some of this Aurora powder. So I'll put a decent amount in, and then I can mix this up, make sure that all of that powder is mixed in and I don't have any lumps, and it's one solid colour all the way through. That's looking lovely and shimmery, which is exactly what I want. Alright, now I can add my glass chips to this little bit of resin that I took out. These are silver plated glass chips. They're about 1 to 3 millimeters, so they're pretty small. And I'm going to put quite a lot in there. Pick up the stray bits that have fallen out, and then I want to mix these round, make sure that they are all coated, but try not to work in too many bubbles. Alright, so now I want to fill the antlers with this. It's pretty lumpy and these are really small areas, so I don't think it's going to help me to pour them in. So I'm just going to spoon this in and then kind of scrape it to where it needs to go. I do want them to stop in the head and only fill up the antlers, and I've got 3 reindeer to do, so I'm just going to speed this up a little bit, show you what I'm doing, and then I'll finish off the rest. So I filled it up until it gets to the head, and I'm not worried if any of the clear resin runs into there because that will be chased out when I put the white in there, but I don't want any of the glass chips to migrate into the body. Now I'm just going around with my microbrush stick and making sure that there are no bubbles and just moving those chips around. Just need to fill up a little bit more. And again, I can use the microbrush stick to get in there, make sure there's no bubbles and move those glass chips about. Okay, that is looking pretty good. Now I'm going to top this up with the white resin, and that's going to go everywhere in the body, and that should hold those chips in place. So I've got to start working a little bit quickly now because this is starting to get pretty warm and I've still got 2 other reindeer to do. Alright, I'm going to carry on and do the other ones, and then I'll pop this into the G3 and cure it for 2 hours, and then I can work on the next part. Alright, so the reindeer are cooling down and now I can work on this piece. Now this is a huge round tray. It's about 30 centimeters in diameter, and I want to put some of these just around the edge. So these are like plastic pellets, for want of a better word. They're kind of like little tiny ice cubes, and I've mixed some hairy glitter in them. I know that sounds really strange, but I don't really know how else to explain it. It's kind of like mylar hundreds and thousands, tiny little hairs of mylar, and I've mixed that together with the plastic pellets. They're tiny little squares, they do really look like ice cubes, and I'm going to put that just around the edge. So I just need to add that to my resin. This tray takes a huge amount of resin, so I'm not going to fill it completely up. To start with, I'm just going to do the edge with this, and then I'll add another clear layer on the top. So I'm going to want to mix these in pretty slowly, make sure that they are all covered. Now these things float, so I don't want to put too deep of an edge, otherwise they'll rise up and then they're just going to be level with the back of that pour, and then you're just not going to see them from the front. So I'm going to pour this really carefully around the edge. I only want it to be in the edge, I don't want anything on that flat surface. And it's kind of coming out in blobs, so I just need to be a little bit careful because it's pretty lumpy. Anything I do get on the surface, I'm just going to clean that off. So I'm going to carry on going all the way around, and I have to say, yeah, I'm making a bit of a mess, but That is kind of to be expected because I'm trying to pour this with my left hand and I'm not left-handed, so let me swap that over to my right. That's a little bit better. All right, so I'm just going to carefully put this all the way around the outside. And this is too big to go in my G3 curing machine, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some little cups on either side of it and I'll put the G3 over the top of it. And that's still going to add some heat to it and it will allow it to, well, cure a little bit quicker. All right, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more of those cubes because that was mostly resin. Then I'm going to carry on and top this up until it's level with the middle of the tray. Okay, I've got a bit of cleaning up that I need to do. Just clean off my stick. Try and gently scrape most of that back in. Okay, I've got a baby wipe and I've just dried it out a little bit with a paper towel so that it's not quite so damp. And I'm going to clean up along the surface of the mould. Now I might have to wait for this to completely set and then I can go in with a bit of sticky tape and lift off any of the glitter that's left. Now this is too big to go in my G3 curing machine, but what I'm going to do is prop some cups on the four corners and then I'll just put the cover of the machine which has the heating element in it. I'll put that over the top and then I'm going to leave that for 2 hours and hopefully that will help this to cure a little bit more quickly. And I don't even have to wait for it to completely cure because the next layer I'm going to add is just going to be a clear layer. Just need to make sure that these don't merge or any of those glitters rise up into the middle of the tray. So back when I can do the next bit. Well, the reindeer are now all fully cured and I can demould them. So I need to be a little careful around these antlers. It's quite intricate and there are lots of little tiny pieces that are locked in the middle. So just going to ease this out, get most of the body out, and then I can try and push out the centres in between the curls of the antlers. That's what's holding that in. I don't want to snap them or bend them. This is still a little bit soft. It hasn't finished fully curing, but it's cured enough. Almost out. Just poke my thumb in. There we go. Okay, that looks lovely. That's what I was going for. There's a really lovely pattern. It's almost like frost on here, and that's from the mica. I didn't expect that, but I've got all of the silver in there, and I'm going to add some silver to the feet. So I'm going to go ahead and demould both of these as well. Right, just doing the last one. So I've also got some of that frost-like patterning on there. I haven't on the other one, but that's okay. That looks really pretty and I'm happy with those. So now I want to give them some silver feet, some silver hooves, and I'm going to use this nail gel. It's a UV nail gel and it's a silver metallic paste. This stuff is like quicksilver. It's gorgeous. So if I undo this, there you go. You can see it just looks like molten metal. So I'm going to use this brush and I'll paint the hooves on, and then I can use the UV torch to cure it immediately. So I'm just going to give this a quick stir. Okay. I might well take off what is on this stick and use that. And then I can paint on the hooves. I'm going to paint along the front and the sides and the bottom, but I'm not going to bother with the back because you're not going to see that. Once I've got these coated, I can use my torch to cure them temporarily, and then I'll pop this underneath my UV lamp and I can cure them all at the same time. I could have used a chrome pen to do that, but actually the nibs would have been too thick to get in between some of the hooves. And also I'd have to wait a while for it to dry, whereas this, I can set this immediately and carry on with what I'm doing. Now that I have them all coated, I'm going to pop this underneath my dual resin lamp and cure them properly for 5 minutes. Okay, back to the tray, and this is now secured around the edge, but I've got lots of little strands of glitter in the middle, and I want that to be nice and clear, so I'm going to take the tape and I'm going to clear that off. I'm going to press it against the mould and pick up the pieces of glitter and just remove any glitter or resin that might be in the middle. And once I've got this cleaned up, I can mix up my resin and finish pouring up the plate. So I'm not going to fill this, it's just too thick. I don't need it that thick, I just need enough to cover that centre piece. And I may need a little bit more, but I'm going to scrape out everything I've got in here and smooth this out over the surface. If I need to mix up a little bit more, then I will. But first I'm going to try and smooth it out with my heat gun and just spread it out to the sides. And if I can cover all of that surface, then so much the better. This is going to help me pop the bubbles also. I really just need a thin layer in the middle to help support that outer ring and for me to attach some stars and a forest into the middle. So it is almost covered, and I think this is going to be enough. So I'm going to let this cure now, and then I will be back when I can demould it, which as if by magic is now. Now I haven't filled up this mould, so I have a very sharp edge, so I'm going to be really careful of that. And I think the best thing for me to do is to flip this over, and then I can pull the mould away from the piece. Okay, and that is looking pretty good. I don't have many bubbles, but I do have some weird marking in the middle, and that is on my mould. I do have just a couple of micro bubbles here, and I've got a few bubbles just around the edge. That back is really sharp though, so I am going to have to address that. So I'm going to grab my deburring tool, and then I'll go around the edge and just take off that sharp edge to make it safe. Okay, I now have all of my resin pieces, and I want to make this stand up, so I had to design a base. And I had somebody with a laser cut this out for me. It is 3mm basswood, and I'm going to stack these ovals up together, and that should create a nice base. Now I had that top oval cut from this bottom one. That creates a void underneath, so that when I stack these all together, I'm going to have space underneath. Once I pass the screw through these pieces, the screw will just sit hovering above the table, and the top of the screw is going to pass through a hole in the bottom of the plate and attach it to the base. And while I had that cut, I also designed this piece. So my forest is going to sit in here. I'm going to glue that onto the background. I want to paint the trees, add some snow, and then I can stick the reindeer around the outside ring. So I'm going to have one flying up there and two that are going to sit amongst the forest in the snow. And I think this is going to look really cute. So I need to paint this, but before I do that, I want to take this outside, drill a hole through the bottom, and then I can attach the base and put everything together. I've already drilled my hole and I've passed the screw in so that it will be ready to screw into this. But first I need to assemble this and then paint it. So I'm going to use some bookbinding glue to stick this together. You can use some wood glue, but I just happen to have this to hand. So I'm going to go around the outside of the oval hole on the base one. And then I'll go around the outer edge of the one that is going to go on top. So this is the middle one. And then I can just make sure that I line these up so that I have a nice border all the way around. And I think I've actually put this one upside down. You can see it's got a little bit of charring on it. It doesn't matter for this purposes because I'm actually going to paint these anyway. So I'm just squashing that flat, just holding it down for a couple of seconds. This does glue pretty quickly. And then I just need to attach the last one on top. Make sure that that is all lined up in the middle, and I'm going to put plenty of glue on this one. Make sure it's all covered, and then just line that up in the middle. So this will need a few minutes to dry. It does dry pretty quickly though. So I'm just going to set that off to the side. While I'm waiting for that base to dry, I'm going to give this a coat of gesso acrylic primer. And that's just going to make sure that it seals in any kind of soot or smoke that might be along the edges, and make sure everything is one even colour so that I can add some paint to it afterwards. I'm going to prime the whole of the front and also along all of the edges as well, but I'm not going to worry about the back. Once I've got all of those sides covered, I'm going to set that aside to dry, and I can add some gesso onto the base as well. I am going to be adding a textured paint to this to create a snowy effect once I have it attached to the plate. The gesso coat is now dry, and now comes the fun part. I'm going to start adding some colour. So I've mixed up some greens, and it's looking a little bit more turquoisey than I wanted, but this is just going to be the base colour. So I'm going to paint all of the trees, and again, there's not really much I can say about this, so I'm going to speed it up. I'll pop on a little bit of music and you can watch the trees take shape. Alright, so my trees are all painted now. I'm just going to set them off to the side because I need to mix up some texture paint which I'm going to use for the snow. So I've got some corn flour and I'm going to mix that with some white acrylic paint. So I'm just going to put that in my pot, and I'm only going to mix up a little bit at a time because this stuff dries pretty quickly. So I need to scoop in some corn flour until I get kind of paste-like texture. So I don't know how much I need. I'm going to start with that first and then mix that round. I'm doing it carefully because this corn flour will fly everywhere. So just mix it all in, and that is still too soft, so I need a little bit more corn flour. Put a couple of more scoops in and then try that. Mix that in carefully. So what I'm looking for is for this to hold its shape and keep its texture. So you can see it is still pointy, a little bit like royal icing or whipped cream. Okay, so I'm just going to add one more thing to that, and that is a little bit of clear glue. And I mean a little bit, just a couple of drops. That'll do. And this is just to help it bind onto whatever you're putting it on. So again, I'm going to give that a quick stir. Just check that hasn't made it too liquid. No, that's fine. That's still keeping its peaks. So this should be good. Now I can apply this with a brush along the edges of the branches to suggest snow, and I'll also put some in the middle as well. So again, I'm going to speed this up and I'll pop on some more music. Okay, now that I've got my snow texture, I need to add the glisten. So this is the Dazzling Diamonds glitter, and the wet paint is going to act like a glue and it will stick it as it dries. So I'll put it all over the trees as well. And then I can shake off the excess and I'll set this aside to dry. I've still got a little bit of snow left over in my pot and I don't want to waste that, so I'm going to put this onto the base, but I'll add some more once I've got this attached to the plaque, and then I can see where I need to start building up drifts. Okay, now I need to attach this to the base. I've already got my screw in place and I've made a little hole, like a pilot hole, but I don't want to rely on just that screw holding that in place, so I'm going to use a little bit of this UV nail gel. It's a builder gel, I'm going to use that to help support either side of that screw. So I'm just going to try and scoop some out. Okay, so I've got a little bit of Vaseline on the tips of my gloves. I'm just going to break this blob in half, kind of roll it into a small log, and I'll put that next to the hole. And then when I put the plate in place, this should be able to help support it, and I'll cure that. Alright, so they're on either side. Now I can try and line up that screw and make sure that it's lined up along that oval as well. Make sure everything is straight. Then I can tighten up that screw, and as I am going to tighten this up, it's going to pull down onto that clay and squish it. So I'm just going to take my craft knife and I'll remove anything that is sticking out, especially when it's on the front. There isn't anything on the back, that's great. So now I can cure this using my torch, and because that ring is clear, I can get the UV rays through there to cure it. Now I'm ready to add the trees. Now I've got my piece hanging over the edge of my desk, but why didn't I put this here before I put the base on? Well, because of that screw, I wouldn't have been able to screw that screw in. It is very close to where the wood is. It's almost overhanging it, so I had to do it this way round. To attach my trees, I'm going to use this UV bonding resin, and because the plate is clear, I'll be able to cure that by shining the light through the back. So I'm going to put some blobs on the back of the trees and on the snow. Put the cap on that. Do need some more of this. And then I can put this in place. It's a little bit difficult for me to get a good camera angle on this, so I'm going to just pick this up and shine the light through the back and cure this in place, and I'll be back once this is fixed. Now I can fix the deer onto the rim, and again I'm going to use that UV bonding resin. So where the legs and the body meets that rim, I'm going to put a little bit of glue. Then I can just hold it in place, and I should be able to shine the torch and angle that through the clear sides of the plate, and enough UV light will be able to get through to actually set that in place. So it might be a little difficult for me to get the angle, but it doesn't take much, 10 to 15 seconds, and that will be cured in place. Okay, that is fixed nice and firmly on the edge, but just to give it a little bit more support, I'm going to put a blob of that resin clay behind it and then cure that in place, and that will give the body some added support as well. So I'm going to do the same thing and place the other deer down on the other corner. I'll put the glue behind the body, and then I can put the resin clay behind the neck, and then I can cure it from the side. And the final deer is going to go along the top, and because most of the body will have glue along it, it doesn't need any of the UV resin clay. So again, I'm just going to put that in place and cure that from the edge of the plate. Now I'm going to add some of these rhinestone crystals, and they're going to be the stars in the sky. So I've just got a little bit of the bonding resin. I'm going to pop that down, and then I'll hold this in place and cure it. And because the crystals are see-through, it cures in no time at all. A quick twist of the pickup, and there you go. Now I'm going to carry on and add some more. I mixed up some more texture paint, and I'm going to put that on the base and make it look like the reindeer are actually standing in a snowbank. I'm also going to use it to cover up that screw on the bottom of the plate. And here it is, the perfect statement piece for my mantle. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't. You'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Don't forget to check the link to the playlist in my description below the video, and thank you, Tracy, for organising this. Thank you too for watching. Take care. Bye.